Hello folks, hope you're having a wonderful middle of your week. We're on Wednesday now, we are powering on through the week. Hope you have a good one today, and I really do hope that the week is being kind to you. If you like what I'm doing, the subscribe button is down below, the Patreon button is also down below. If you want to be involved in our monthly prize draw, the next one will be on the 3rd of September, and it will be for £100 of free models from Composite Games. So if you want free models, that's the place to be. You're going to have no better chance of winning some free models, and you help to support the channel in the process. If you are going to buy any models yourself, please use people like Composite Games, and definitely use Composite Games for me, because they do a lot for the channel. Use the promo code Northern Exile down below to get yourself 5% off your order at checkout, as a lot of you already do. So congratulations to you on getting some money off. So, jumping right into this one, because this might be a long video. It might be, I don't know. But it is a subject that is very, very, very close to my heart, and it's something I've thought about a lot on train journeys, on car journeys, when I've been in the shower. You know, anytime my mind is at rest, at least once a week, I will think of this idea. I will think of this thing that I've got in my mind, and the injustice done to Warhammer 40,000 fans all over the world, and that is, why don't we have a big budget role-playing game? Why? I don't understand it. I just don't get it. So I thought it'd be cool to do a video where I put all of those thoughts into a single place. So not only am I going to tell you why I think we haven't seen one yet, but I'm also going to show you why it's needed and what I would do in terms of a game just like this one, how I would write it, how I would go about it. Before we go anywhere though, some boilerplate disclaimers. One, this is all opinion based. This is all my opinion. This isn't gospel, this is just what I think. Number two, I am well aware that Owlcat Studios are bringing out their RPG Rogue Trader later this year, although no date at the time of recording has been given for its release date. And yes, I am very excited for what may be the Sleeper Game of the Year award on this channel. I don't know, we'll see. Rest assured though, I'm aware it's coming out. That does not change the fact though, that we have had almost every type of game from Warhammer 40,000 as a universe. From Doom-style games like, you know, Bolt Gun, which we've seen many times before, right? Seen that all the time. Got Bolt Gun right here, you can see it. Doom-type games like Bolt Gun, to XCOM strategy games like Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, to naval strategy battle titles like Battlefleet Gothic, and of course, repetitive shooters like Darktide. Dawn of War is probably the most famous of the Warhammer 40,000 games, and is likely the closest in feel to the actual tabletop game whilst playing it online. The glaring omission is a property RPG game, as in the RPG game that we are going to be writing about in this video. I don't mean ARPG, by the way. I don't mean a Diablo clone like Inquisitor Martyr. I mean a fully fledged Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Witcher style epic RPG. That is one of the things that we do not get, unfortunately, that we do not get as a fan base. We've never really gotten one of these games, and it annoys me to no end. So, I say we fix that problem, or at least we give you a bit of mental, that would be really cool, you know? We loosen that valve a little bit, so you can have a little taste of what it might be like to have a Warhammer 40,000 RPG of this style. All of you watching this, or most of you, will realise how much of a cool thing that would be. You're into Warhammer 40,000, you know how amazing the setting is, you know how many stories can be told. But why have we not seen one yet? Well, three things, I think, mainly. The first one, we have touched on the most likely people to make an RPG of this size, right? Okay? We're going to touch on that just in a sec. This video is a case for such a game, and if I were to make one, what would I do with the concept if it were given to a studio of a AA size, like Obsidian Entertainment, the old BioWare studio, not the new one, Larian Entertainment and others, or even a AAA size studio would get the license, like an owned studio by EA, Activision, Ubisoft, and other evil corporations. In all likelihood, let's be honest, Games Workshop are not smart enough to give their property to a hungry team like Wizards of the Coast did with D&D and Larian Entertainment. They will sell their property to the highest bidder, which, unfortunately, means we are working with the big boys of the AAA gaming sphere in all likelihood for a production of this size. So, I'm immediately disqualifying AA studios from working on this project. I don't want to, right? But a gaming project of this size, Games Workshop are only going to give it to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder will be a AAA studio. That's if it even gets made. They may just buy the rights to keep it on the back burner. I'm going miracle by miracle. Let's say Henry Cavill gets involved or something, and he says, no, I want to do a video game. I don't want to do an Amazon thing. I want to do a video game. Let's go and do it, right? Maybe he goes to Amazon and says, you know, New World was a failure. Give me the reins and I'll make you an offline but proper RPG. A AAA RPG. Let's do it, right? He's a gamer. Let's do it. But why have we not seen one yet? I'm going back to that point. Well, we have touched on the most likely people to make an RPG of this size. The fact remains that AAA studios will find the Warhammer 40,000 setting to be a little too metal and grimdark for their tastes. Most studios of EA size and Ubisoft size will run a million miles away from anything that looks like Warhammer 40,000. It's too grim. It's too in your face. There aren't many Western studios of that size who will take on a project like this. Why? Well, I'd actually say this is a good thing. It means the 40k setting is still holding the same appeal that brought us here in the first place. If 40k can be turned into a massive mainstream RPG, then we are probably looking at the death of it as a place of grimdark and ridiculous levels of heroism in the face of that darkness. The minute it is touched by an entity like EA, that means it is sanitized enough for them to handle. Ironically, here's what I would do. If it's in the hands of, say, a studio like Capcom, they would be more ideal to make this RPG if they left it to a British or American team who are steeped knee-deep in the lore and the setting, or even a Japanese studio who are steeped in the lore and the setting. But, unfortunately, Japanese studio makes certain types of games, which are great, which I really enjoy. But it's not the type of game I want to make. I want to make a Mass Effect-style RPG, and they've not made one of those yet, right? So, any studio who makes Resident Evil and wants to turn it into back to its horror roots has my vote for doing a Warhammer game, okay? Capcom are really comfortable with extreme levels of gore, horror, you know, and all of those adult themes. They're extremely comfortable with those, which is why I would say a studio like that, even though they're AAA, they are perfect for making a Warhammer 40,000 RPG, so long as they let us handle it, right? They bring the experts over, or they cherry pick the top RPG guys from the West, and they bring them over and say, how do you make Mass Effect games? How do you make these big, epic, sprawling games? CD Projekt Red, you know, go and poach some guys. How do you make those games? Tell us. Let's make one together. That's the ideal team for a game like this. It's all nationalities, it's all people, and ideas coming together, right? I would love that. I would love the people who made Dragon's Dogma to actually get involved and be like, you know, brain splurge, the people who really like 40k and really like Mass Effect. Right? Cool. The size of a project like a 40k RPG is epic. Probably beyond epic in size. If we are presenting a game that hits everything we want it to hit in terms of showcasing the universe, we are looking at a cinematic, full throttle, Mass Effect style epic game that is likely to be 40 to 70 hours long. That took Larian Entertainment with Baldur's Gate 3 6 to 7 years to do, with a team of 400 people and crowdfunding or pre-orders keeping them afloat for the beta launch of the title, right? Through those years. And all they made was a top-down, isometric RPG. A much easier feat to do than a cinematic and massive RPG like The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Mass Effect, or Dragon Age. It just is. Even by their own admission it is, right? It's a lot easier to make an isometric RPG than it is to make big cinematic RPGs, which is why BioWare graduated from one to the other. They made the original Baldur's Gate game, and then they went and made Knights of the Old Republic, all isometric RPGs, very nicely done, and then they made Dragon Age, which was a bit of both. Dragon Age Origins, which is why it was the best one, right? Then Dragon Age 2, 3, and off we go to Mass Effect and all these other games that they're going to make, right? So, games naturally become more cinematic. We're seeing a reversal of that now with isometric RPGs coming back, but I don't want to make an isometric RPG because Owlcat Games are already doing that, and it might be really good. I want to make an epic, genre-defining Warhammer 40,000 game in the mold of the biggest RPGs on the market. That's what I want to do. The cost of this project would be astronomical, but so would the sales if the game was properly marketed and was of top quality. So those are the reasons why we haven't seen it yet. AAA publishers don't want to touch it. It's too extreme, right? The right studio doesn't really exist to do it, because even if Capcom did it themselves, they would need to really steep themselves in the lore of Warhammer 40,000. I'm still thinking listen, I'm sure there are Japanese dudes out there who love Warhammer, and all power to you guys. But as a culture, you know, that is not a culture that has been steeped in 40k. British and American is. Like, we are literally steeped in. We're knee deep in it, right? Like, it's a huge property over here. It just is what it is, right? Okay, it's massive. It is huge over here. So, if we could get a team over at Capcom which have the passion and the know-how of 40k as a setting, and the type of really grim, dark game they want to make, then by all means. But I don't think this team currently exists, which is another reason why it hasn't been made yet. And the third and final reason, just to recap, is the actual size of an RPG that uses Warhammer 40,000 as its subject matter. It would be fucking huge. Huge. As in, this might be the first game to top 200 gigabytes of needed space on your hard drive. That's how big this is. It is huge. Right? If we're doing it properly, it's massive. Absolutely massive. Okay, I mean, the reason why I'm saying this is Baldur's Gate 3 is 130 gigabytes right now. Right? And that's an isometric RPG. I would have the same amount of content, maybe more, in a game the size of a Mass Effect. Yeah. Huge. But why is it needed? I'm saying all this stuff, and it'd be a lot of effort to do, so why do we even need a game like this as a hobby space, as people who love Warhammer? Well, let me tell you. Another 3 reasons. I tried to keep it to 3 each. Why is it needed? Well, remember the other day when I said there were too many stories to tell in Warhammer 40,000, and that was intimidating for a single writer like yourself? Well, finally, this part of the setting has its time to shine in a full-blown RPG, because we have a full writing team, motherfucker. We have a full writing team of people who want to write stories based in Warhammer 40,000. The amount of side quests you could do in a space soap opera epic set in Warhammer 40,000 is ridiculous. I will get into that later, but the scope you can do for this game in terms of stories, and they all fit into the main narrative, is stupid. Right? Okay. Number 2. RPGs are the biggest games on the market, and it's the only one Games Workshop have not tapped into. They are the very biggest selling games ever. Right? These are RPGs. Or those biggest selling games ever have a lot of role-playing mechanics built into them. Grand Theft Auto 5 was not the biggest piece of entertainment when it was a single-player game. Alright? It became the highest grossing piece of entertainment ever made by becoming an RPG online. Because that's what Grand Theft Auto Online is. It's a role-playing game. You're playing the role of a criminal in the underworld on your rise to power. That's what you're doing, right? At least that's what it was at the start, and that's what hooked everybody in. Even I was playing it for dozens of hours. Dozens and dozens of hours, because I loved my character, right? I loved my dude. I loved that I was creating this, like, almost Heisenberg-like existence with a friend of mine. And we were making, like, a full-on crime syndicate and things like that in the game, like, in GTA Online. It was really, really cool. It got spoilt by cheaters and money grubbing, of course, but it was still the highest grossing piece of entertainment ever, and that's because it became an RPG. It wasn't that before it was an RPG. Which is why I'm telling you now, if you like Grand Theft Auto and you're waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6, you're going to be waiting a while, because they're going to release the online component with the main game, and that's going to take a while, because it's such a money spinner, because the role-playing side of GTA is the biggest side. It's the side everyone wants to do. Yeah, I want to play as Michael, I want to play as Trevor, that's fine, that's okay. It's like I'm watching a movie when I'm playing as them. Okay, that's cool. That's entertaining. But what if I can create my own character and define my own role in this game, in this setting, in this universe, with these cars and these toys and these guns and these strippers and all that sort of shit? Yeah, exactly. The most hype projects and tentpole projects in gaming as a sphere, as an entirety, are role-playing games. The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Mass Effect 3, Fallout 4, New Vegas. The big RPG projects generate the most buzz, even if they end up not being that great of a game. The biggest things you see at EA are always RPGs. Have you noticed that? Sorry, at E3. When we used to do E3, it's not a thing anymore, of course, but E3, every single year, the biggest reveal at E3 was the new RPG that's coming out. So whatever company was bringing out a new RPG, could be BioWare, could be Bethesda. Do you remember the hype around Fallout 4? Right? It blew everything else at the show out the water. Every RPG that is even hinted at being a thing, and big budget, right? Not an isometric one, I mean big budget open world style games. Those are the ones that generate the headlines. Skyrim. I'm not even mentioning Skyrim. Right? Huge, huge properties. Zelda, you know? If you want to get Warhammer 40,000 to explode in popularity and surge the hobby into being the biggest thing on the market in terms of nerddom, a phenomenon, then this is the genre you want your game to be a part of. And it's the one game Games Workshop haven't done. Number 3. We want to tell our own story in 40k, and that's why a game like this is needed. You know that feeling, dude. You watching this video, you know that feeling. You know that feeling very well. Okay? You're playing a game and enjoying it. Yeah, this is pretty cool, you know. But you think to yourself in a quiet moment, well, goddamn, if 40k did a game like this, it would be epic. Yeah. Have you ever felt that playing Mass Effect, Dragon Age, The Witcher? I certainly have. The last pang I got was in Cyberpunk 77, when I was in an elevator, and I could look out over this cyberpunk-style city, really grimy and grotty in the night, and my mind was drifting back to Necromunda and thinking, by God, can you imagine a punk-style Warhammer 40,000 game like this, set in a city like this with bounty hunters and hiver scum all around you? Yeah, that feeling is why this game needs to be made. Beyond a doubt, this game needs to happen. At some stage it will. And I can only pray that they get it right. But those are the reasons why it hasn't happened, and those are the reasons why it has to happen, for me, eventually. So, what would my RPG look like in this vein? So, okay. Above everything else, what I'm going to pitch to you right now, above everything else, I want you to think one thing, right? When you have this game in your mind. It is a Mass Effect 3 style space romp RPG called Fallen Inquisitor, or something like that. This is the type of game we are going for. There are several large planets to land on, as massive instances. Each one is about 4 to 5 times the planet of a planet in Mass Effect 3, or the size of a city block in Cyberpunk 2077. So, the game's kind of the same size as Cyberpunk, but it's split up into different planets, right? Okay, cool. Right. So we're keeping it manageable. This isn't a pie-in-the-sky talk. I want this to actually be made within 3 to 4 years, okay? So, we use the Unreal Engine, nice and simple. You know, we don't go crazy. Maybe we use Unreal 5, that'd be nice, right? But we use the Unreal Engine, and nice and simple, really simple piece of tools, a really simple piece of kit, and we create 7 or 8 world spaces that you can land on in your ship, okay? And we go from there. When I say Mass Effect 3, I make that choice on purpose. Mass Effect 3 feels massive, but it's not. It's really not. It's about 12 levels, essentially, right? 12 worlds you can go to that are levels in their own way, in their own right. They look huge, but they're not. It's all smoke and mirrors. But the thing is, when you're playing the game, it feels huge, and you literally discount the fact that this isn't an open world game. You're not even thinking about that, because it is a tight, streamlined, focused experience where you are Commander Shepard, and you're doing what Commander Shepard would be doing in this instance. Right? You're playing that role. You're making their choices in this universe, in this setting, and making them the kind of person you want them to be. That's the kind of game I want for this. So if you're thinking, oh my god, that's unrealistic, no game's ever going to be open world on several different planets, that's not what I'm doing. That is not what I'm doing. I'm combining the early lost feel of the early Mass Effect, where you can land on any planet you want. You can land on any planet you want in this game. It's just most of them will be desolate and have nothing on them, but a few Easter eggs and maybe some resources and stuff like that, right? Whereas the 10 to 12 planets that you can land on are all, you know, a cyberpunk city block in size. Easily makeable, easily done. You know, and you can make them different. So you have like temple worlds, and you have tomb worlds, and all these other things going on. You have city worlds as well. So that's the kind of game we're going for. It's tight in scope, but it feels massive. But it's smoke and mirrors. It's not really that massive. It's only the size of a Cyberpunk 2077, right? This game's been made before in terms of size, but it feels epic and huge through writing and world building, right? All right. Between these populated worlds, of course, tomb worlds and arid, desolate worlds for you to head on when doing certain quests. These will house, you know, pirate bases, heretic enclaves, and of course, Xenos infestations. I do have an idea for the central plot to revolve around some Necron superweapon, and for the final battle to take place on a Necron tomb world infested with Tyranids. Literally, you're fighting through hell. Two of the worst things you could ever fight, and that's what you're fighting through, where you are not expected to survive to destroy the weapon in question. Through the right choices, the character build, and player skill, however, you will make it out alive, but not all of your companions may do. The player would take on the role of a mere interrogator for the Inquisition. If you don't know what that is, an interrogator is like a trainee Inquisitor. He's a Padawan, essentially, in this setting. And fuck it, let's say your immediate superior is Gregor Eisenhorn himself. That means that if you're into 40k, you're immediately getting like a, oh my god, that's Eisenhorn, right? You're immediately there, and you are his last pupil, and he tells you that. He's close to retirement. He says, you are my last hope. You are my last person to take up my casebook and you know, get rid of all of the ghosts that are haunting me. I'm training you to be the ultimate Inquisitor, the ultimate person who's going to take my work and jump into the stars with it. He trains you in the opening 10 or so hours of the game, and you grow attached to him, and he gifts you your own personal small ship. It's an interceptor, the Helican Gun Cutter, right? Very similar to the gun cutter that you see in the Eisenhorn books. That is your ship. You use this to get around the early parts of the game, going from planet to planet. You pick up some henchmen of your own that you grow quite fond of, and get your bearings with the skills, combat, and other parts of the game setting in the first dozen hours of the game. As I said before, this is not an open world game. You will only be able to travel to and land on planets that you have a mission on or that you've been to before, or you have an interest in going to, right? So there's no random jumping to Terra and all that stuff. We don't even see Terra in this game. Instead, we are in a subsector known as Hellas, created by the dev teams themselves, and we stay there. We stay in Hellas itself. So, about 10 to 15 hours into the game, Gregor Eisenhorn dies. He is killed by the big bad of the story, that I would say is, let's say, a Necron overlord who is seeking to control the Tyranids to wipe out all life in the sector before eventually wiping them clean himself. Because he's got like a super weapon that immediately obliterates organic life, but it can't be, for some reason, it can't be used on humans because it was modified by early humanity in the Dark Ages of technology, right? So it's a Necron weapon that's been modified to not target humans, but it was used back in the day to wipe clean all Xenos from this subsector back in the day. He's corrupted it, he's using it, and he's trying to get it to wipe out the Tyranids, but he's using it also to control the Tyranids and drive them against humanity to clean them from the subsector itself and then just destroy all the Tyranids so he can populate all of the worlds with his own Necrons who are rising up from below this planet, and there are billions of them down there. It is one of the largest tomb worlds ever discovered, and we only discover it towards the end of the game. This is all mystery right now, right? Gregor Eisenhorn's been killed by a Necron, and we're like, oh my god, what the hell's going on, right? Cool. So, this big bad, however, is secretly being controlled by the Silent King himself, who is the real big bad of this story. Eisenhorn's powerful demon host, Cherubale, if you've read the Eisenhorn books, you know who that is, right? Cherubale is like his main demon host and his main antagonist, who kind of becomes like his weird friend in a strange way. Anyway, Cherubale is a demon host and he wants vengeance for the slaying of his friend, quote-unquote, Eisenhorn. Can you imagine that mission where you go onto Eisenhorn's ship to make a count of all of his belongings after he's died, and you find Cherubale in the bowels of his ship? Yeah. Can you imagine that? What a cool moment that would be. So, he also joins your crew. Yep, you have a demon host on your fucking ship. He tells you about chaos and that part of the lore, acting as an introduction to the corruption of the ruinous powers and how terrifying 40k can be as a setting beyond the Xenos enemies. It's a teaser for future games, essentially. He does not come with you on missions because to do so would out you as somebody who's a radical who uses a demon host, and you don't even want to use him. But you can't dispel him. You can't banish him. So you say, well, I may as well take him myself to keep him under wraps. You know, with Eisenhorn's wards on him, I can't, like, let him walk around this estate, so I'll put him on my ship with all the wards around him. He can't escape, but he can help me at times if I let him. Right? So he doesn't come with you on missions, but he keeps other entities from your ship and can be used as a one-off power move in combat if called. So he does like an orbital strike from your ship if called. The more you use him, however, and his powers, the more and more your Puritan followers, if they are Puritans, will react negatively. Okay? Cool. Alright, going on to those companions. There are no Astartes companions in this game. They ruin the balance of the game, and you only get the Death Watch as an ally after completing a big mission arc for them nearer the end of the game, so you can take them with you on the final mission and call them in. Can you imagine being in that final mission, trying to fight it yourself and everything's going to hell, and then you say, fucking bring in the drop pods. And the Marines come in on drop pods and fucking Thunderhawk gunships and things like that, and they're all coming in and slamming into the Necron tomb world, and they're fighting their way, they're carving a path for you to reach your mission. That's going to be so an epic moment, man. You know? The Space Marines should be around, but they shouldn't be the focus of the mission. The mission is yours. You're the Inquisitor, right? The final mission only is where the Marines can be used. In terms of companions, many join your ship and story. Right? In terms of your companions, we have Imperial Guardsmen to leashed Psychers. We have Navigators, Tech Adepts, and all sorts. I may even have a Sister of Battle in there, be a part of your crew, which will be really cool. They will all have different personalities, from being pretty open to using extreme measures and evil choices to get what you want, to being strictly Puritan in the Imperial cause and reacting badly to any veering away towards extreme solutions to problems, right? So you can have companions who are good people, who are open to extreme solutions. You can have companions who are good people who are Puritans. We can have bad people who are Puritans, and we can have bad people who are open to extreme solutions. We can have all of those. Those are the two ways I would measure what your companion is like, right? Are they good or bad or neutral, or are they liking extreme solutions to problems like using Cherubale as a demon host or Xenos weapons and stuff, or are they neutral, or do they hate it, right? That's what I would do for the companions. Like most RPGs, you can make your choices in your story, and no one playthrough will be exactly the same, with the choices you make coming back to haunt you or help you as you go later in the story. When Eisenhorn dies, for instance, he passes his inquisitorial rosette to you, his badge of office. He inducts you in his will as a fully fledged Inquisitor, which is then ratified by the top brass to respect his wishes. But you are told, in no uncertain terms, we are only doing this to respect Eisenhorn's wishes. We're not sure you're ready for this just yet. Right? The Inquisition are not sure about you. There will be factions in the game that you can get on your side, like the Order Malleus, and there'll even be different inquisitorial sects, like the Istvanians and the Absolutionists, the Purists, things like that. They will all have you have radicals who will like your more radical choices, and these people, those characters, will turn up to help you in times of need if they like your decisions enough. They will follow your career with great interest, right? You will also get to choose which of the big three Ordos to join in your playthrough: Hereticus, Malleus, or Xenos, and each gives you unique abilities, safe houses, oh yeah, housing will be a thing, weapons, and dialogue choices. Like you have a character class in any other RPG. Sometimes your character class means you can make a choice in dialogue choices, like a barbarian saying, "I'm going to rip your head off," right? Well, that's the same thing with Malleus, Xenos, and Hereticus. You can make different choices in different conversations based on what kind of an Inquisitor you have signed up to be. Let's not forget, though, you are indeed an Inquisitor. Your power is absolute, even if you yourself are mortal. Your choices will shape the subsector as a whole. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's do it. Elephant in the room time. Romance. Okay. I'm not one of these people who thinks romance shouldn't be in games. RPGs. I'm not one of those people. I just think it should be done correctly. Okay? Romance will be in the game, but it will make sense as you go. Characters will warm to you over time the more they like your decisions and leadership. And eventually, romantic tones will start to creep into your reactions quite naturally. So there's no more, there's no like, "Hey, thank you for picking up the apple for me. Do you want me to suck your dick?" No. No, I don't. I've just met you, right? There's none of that. It takes dozens of hours with these people being on your ship and talking to you and going over what you've been doing and taking them on different missions and all of that stuff. It takes all of that time for you to actually establish a romantic connection. And yes, we will have titty sex scenes and shit like that. Why not? It's all in there, Or you have the choice to break that off immediately by not reciprocating those feelings. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to make people feel like shit for just not wanting to do a romance. That's another thing that I don't like. Like, every game makes you turn people down and go, "No, I don't want to be in a romance with you," and the character acts really hurt. Naturally, as a human being, you don't want to do that, and you want to shy away from upsetting people, which is fine. I would literally have, if you don't react in a positive way to 2 or 3 romantic, flirty undertones, the game just breaks it off and goes, "Okay, you're not interested in that person." And then it's but it doesn't just do it for good, it's then up to you to pursue that person romantically, because they've assumed you're not interested. Just like real life. Just like real life. So a character comes to you, talks normally with a bit of a flirty undertone. If you don't reciprocate that 3 times, they'll stop doing it. They'll stop doing it. But the romance isn't dead. If you go, do you know what, I like that person. You go to them, you talk to them, and you can start flirting with them, and they will immediately, bang, switch it back on again, and you're back on the romance path, right? It'd be very easy to do in terms of dialogue trees. I've written dialogue trees before for Sky Oblivion and things like that. It'd be very easy to do. You just got to do it in a more realistic way, right? Don't be lazy, essentially. There will even be characters who are quite adversarial, but they like that. This is 40k after all. It's a very angry setting. So there will be people like the Sister of Battle, maybe, who's very adversarial to you. But if you are a good leader, and you have a lot of power at your fingertips, you dominate people, you have a lot of drive to get things done, and your leadership style is something they really respect, they'll want to jump your bones anyway. Even if they don't like you, they'll be like, yeah, but I respect him. Or her. Whoever you are, I respect you as a person. So, like, yeah, our romance is based on respect. Even though I think you're a douche and you annoy me. You know? Hate fucking is a thing in Warhammer 40k. Just is, right? This means quite passionate and almost angry romances are available in this game too. It all depends on the character in general, and if your character's personality gels with theirs. And no, not everybody in this game is polyamorous and bi or pansexual. They have their preferences too. Right? Some people are straight, some are bi, some are gay, some are even quite racist, and won't want to mate with a filthy Monkai, if you know what I mean. Ideally, only about 70% of playthroughs of this game will even have a romance, especially if your Inquisitor is dedicated to their mission wholly and solely. I want you to get a valuable, wonderful playthrough of this game, even if you're utterly dedicated to the cause and don't want any distractions like romance. You have a natural playthrough. You just don't reciprocate any of those feelings. You have a job to do, goddammit. Right? Alright. Combat in the game will resemble Mass Effect Andromeda. Because for all that game got wrong, its sci-fi combat was absolutely superb. If you don't know what I mean, go and play it, dude. It's really cheap. I don't like it as a Mass Effect game or as an RPG, but the combat is chef's kiss. Mwah. Brilliant. Right? That's the combat I would have in this game. Swap Andromeda's bionics out for Psyker powers. Throw in bolters, chainswords, and power swords in there with jump packs and armor with pieces of skulls on them, and you've got what I'm going for with this game. This game is slick, sexy, dark, and smacks to the face for the RPG genre as a whole. So, that's my Warhammer 40,000 RPG. You may be wondering why we aren't touching on chaos here, though. Well, it's introduced by Cherubale and other things, of course, we hint at it, but it's kind of like, you know, why is the Joker not in Batman Begins? Well, we don't want to blow our load too early. We want to sucker you in, we want to pull you in, introduce you into the world that we're creating, and then BAM! We hit you with the big guns later on. That's why The Dark Knight is the best of that Christopher Nolan trilogy. Is because the first one, the Joker's not in it, but it's still a really good Batman movie. You're like, oh, that's cool. And then at the end, whack, they introduce the Joker. Oh my god, I've got to see the sequel and what these people are going to do with the Joker, right? And then they did the Joker in The Dark Knight. That's exactly what I would do. Chaos is 40k's Joker. We don't blow our load too early. We introduce you to the setting and this Inquisitor's first big case that makes them a household name. At the end of the sequel, the next game, right, the 13th Black Crusade begins. Like the final battle of the second game is literally the fall of Cadia, and you're on fucking Cadia when it happens in the final arc of the sequel. So the sequel is all about chaos, and it's creeping into the actual setting, and it's creeping into, you know, making the Great Rift. We can tell that story we can't tell that story at the start of the series. This game introduces you to 40k, it grounds you in its setting, establishes the stakes and characters, and calls back a lot of stuff that 40k fans will know and love for future games. What do you guys think? Would you go and buy this game? Would it be something that you want to do? You know, travelling in your own ship to different parts of the Warhammer 40,000 universe? I'd buy this, and I think most good pieces of media in the world right now, or ever really, are created by people who see a gap in the market for something that they want, and then they go and make that thing. Tolkien did it with Lord of the Rings, right? Tolkien did it with Lord of the Rings. There was no Lord of the Rings type thing on the market before he did that. He created the story he wanted to read. Same with C.S. Lewis, same with all those guys. I want to do the same thing for Warhammer 40k as a game. Alright? Love you all long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day. In fact, no, tomorrow is a QA. Tomorrow is a very important QA where we have lots of really poignant questions coming through that I'm really excited to answer. So that will be tomorrow. And then on Friday, we'll be doing some more Hobby Nightmares. Love you all long time. Speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye now.